Scrappers, by becoming a Patreon supporter, not only will you receive market news that other scrappers don't get, you will give us the ability to make more videos, more podcasts, and show you more ways to make more money with your scrap by becoming a Patreon supporter today. Hey Scrappers, it's Tom from the iScrap app, and before we go into our opinions on inflation and how it's going to affect the scrap market, please make sure you follow us through either the Apple Podcast Store or your Spotify account. This way you can always be notified of when we have new podcasts that are coming out, because we're continuing to make them to help you make more money with your scrap. So recently I was talking to a couple of scrapyard owners, and we were just talking about how inflation is ticking its head in. Here we are, June 2021, copper prices are high, steel prices are high, gas prices have hit $72 a barrel and are predicted to be almost $100 a barrel towards the end of the year. And a lot of these things can be tied to two different events: new president and COVID. And when you look at these two things, and everyone's so scared about inflation and how it's going to affect things like food prices, scrap prices, your pay, your rent, your mortgage, your car, gas, you just kind of like slow yourself down a little bit. Inflation is real, especially when you pump $6 trillion into an economy. Whether it's directly in the United States or it's throughout the world, you have commodity prices going crazy, but there's a lot of factors behind these things that you need to think about. And people just talk about how great it is having high copper prices and how great it is having high steel prices, but they don't talk about why and what could happen in the future. So I was talking to some of my colleagues at iScrap about inflation and how, of course, we should be concerned. It came out earlier today that for the first time, an average price of a home topped $350,000, and that was up 25% year over year. And what drives that? Well, demand drives that. People moving away from cities during COVID, people wanting to get away into the country. This way they were protected from the virus. Well, I had that happen in my neighborhood. We had a lot of people put their houses up for sale. They were gone within days. And now a lot of those people are moving back into the city. We're here in the New York area. A lot of people are moving back into New York. And a lot of these changes that happened in 2020 and 2021 are really going to have a long-term domino, and we've only seen a couple of things happening. At one point, there were over, 1,200 oil pumping stations that went down to 400. So what happened? Well, the amount of reserves that got built up in 2019 and 2020 for oil started to get depleted the first half of 2021 when people started going in their cars again, buying more cars because they didn't trust public transportation, flying and taking travel as a leisure sport again instead of staying in their homes locked down. And all of these different things are going to affect the commodity prices, because when oil prices are now high because you only have a 30 to 40% efficiency of these different wells being pumped, well, you're going to drive the prices up. Then you get into the period of vaccination. So everyone got vaccinated, everyone started to travel, and then the oil prices are going up further. And those oil wells, when they get shut off, it's not just a spigot like a water hose. If you know anything about oil, it takes a lot of effort to open those wells and not a lot of effort to close them. So when you shut them down, they almost really self-seal. And it takes more effort, even with all the infrastructure all over, to open them back up. But then you have like OPEC out of the Middle East. All these oil-producing countries, they like high prices. They make more money with high prices. And because they like that, you've seen oil prices continue to stay high. You've seen copper hitting all-time records in mid-May 2021. You've seen steel prices rising, with light iron almost $200 a ton nationally right now. These are crazy high numbers, and inflation is real. Now, some of it is due to a pent-up demand. Some of it is due to supply chain disruptions. But ultimately, we will start to see some of these things receding. We saw a correction in the copper market in June of 2021, just last week. We saw copper drop almost 50 cents. So that's an auto correction that takes place. But you have to think about these different domino effects and how they're going to affect your day-to-day life. Corn has to be grown, it has to be harvested, it has to be processed. Well, if that fuel going in the tractor costs more money, well, it's going to cost more money for the corn. Then when you make cornmeal and you bake it into whatever goods you're creating, whether it's feed for cattle, whether it's going into products like, your cereals, that's going to cost more money at some point. So you're going to have it go up, but then you're going to have things start to level themselves out. You're going to have oil producers producing more material to kind of quench the thirst of the different consumers. You're going to have a massive amount of metal coming off of the shelves. I mean, last week when we saw copper prices drop 50 cents, it was because the Chinese announced that they were going to put thousands of tons of copper reserves back into the market. So instead of using them as placeholders in some of their yards, they're going to put them into production so things like electronics and cars and the EV markets have more copper to pull from, and they don't have to rely on new mining operations opening up, because new mining operations are not opening super quick. And these are all things that have to do with inflation. And this is going to be a podcast that we kind of talk about inflation throughout 2021 and really forever, because as we're talking about commodities prices, which, don't forget, is not a United States, North American based thing, it is a worldwide traded, commodities are worldwide traded. Gas, copper, aluminum, platinum, palladium, rhodium, all of these metals are used all over the world. So when you have a worldwide problem, countries don't want their population to be complaining about how much things cost to go grocery shopping, because these are like little hidden tax increases where you might not be paying more money out of your paycheck, but you're paying it somewhere else, and it's because of different policy demands and different changes. And all of these things have these little effects, and you just have to watch them closely so you know what's going on, and so you can negate them in your own world when it comes to the price of scrap. People ask us, is it a good time to sell? We always think it's a good time to sell at iScrap. At our yard, Rockaway Recycling, we hold very little inventory because we get it in and we get it out. This way, we either make money, break even, but we never lose because we're never holding for so long. And when you're a scrapper holding on to all this material looking for that top price or the rainy day where you're going to need it, sometimes that rainy day, that top price is right in front of your face, especially when you have a market that's only like 8% off of the all-time highs. What do they say? Pigs get eaten and hogs get slaughtered, or hogs get fat and pigs get slaughtered, whatever it is, right? You don't want to be the one that gets slaughtered. You want to be the one that's continuing to eat. And by selling your scrap and moving your material, it will help you offset some of these inflationary problems that are being spoken about. And don't forget, a lot of this stuff is induced by the media because they want to talk about different things. So sometimes just looking at your day-to-day life, electricity, gas, scrap prices, copper prices, using the iScrap app to follow these markets, becoming a Patreon supporter through iScrap to learn about things not only scrap related but commodity related. These are all little things that are going to help you make more money and sometimes save more money. And saving money is just another form of making it in a different way or holding on to what you've already made. Scrappers, this is Tom from iScrap. I'd love to hear your reactions, whether you agree with me, disagree with me, or want to go back and forth, whether you want to be featured on our podcast or you just want to have a conversation about scrap. Either way, I'm ready for it. Until next time, I'll scrap you later.